My name is Anthony James, and I love the German Netflix show Dark. I love it so much that I started a YouTube channel to talk about it. From the start, I've been told that the Dark train won't last forever, and if I want to continue to grow on YouTube, I need to move on. Well, you know what? I don't want to move on. This show is worth more. It's worth more theories, more analysis, deconstruction, and discussion. So if you're not ready to move on either, then you're in the right place. Right here on Dark Discussions. Hello, and welcome to Dark Discussions. I'm your host, Origin Anthony James. Thanks for joining me. This week, we are going to be covering the many time machines of Dark. Now, I suppose some of them constitute being called time machines. Some of them aren't really time machines. They're more time travel things, I suppose. But we're going to be having a look at them. This was put forward by Adam McCready and you voted for on the poll. Donnie starts. Yours is still there, the Parallels to Lost, and we also have a new one this week as well. So we have a new one put up by Vic Disco, because I noticed, Vic, last week on the comments you actually put up a new topic, but you also donated to the podcast, so I'm including it, and I'm going to put you on the poll this week. So stay tuned to the end of the video for that. Also, the big question of this video is the biggest questions of Dark. Okay, so that's not really a question, that's more of a statement. But that's what I'm going to be having a look at. And that starts off with looking at the time machines, and then it moves into something about one of the time machines. And then I'm going to move into a question that I was having a conversation with someone on Reddit, and I'm going to give them proper credit when we get there, because I can't quite remember them right now, but I'll give them proper credit. I think it was Christoph something, but we'll see there anyway. So we were having a conversation about how did Claudia figure out. Now, I've in the past said, well, she figured out because Regina wasn't part of the big time knot. But that is just the beginnings of how she figured out. The actual in-between, we know what she started off thinking about, and we know what it ended with, but we don't know the middle bit. We don't know what actually happened between her realizing that Regina wasn't in the knot, and then also knowing everything and sending Jonas and Marta on their way. So we're going to have a look at that. And there was some interesting conversation on that Reddit thread with that user, which I'll give them proper credit at the end. I will say from the start, that user has a podcast, which I'm going to plug here. It's called Guided by Ariadne, but it's in Spanish. I'll try and pronounce the Spanish later, but there's a link in the description for that as well. I've linked it to Spotify, but you can get it on a few different podcasting apps. I think they said that it's soon going to be on. It's soon going to be on iTunes, so check it out there. It's in Spanish, so any Spanish-speaking listeners, go and check it out. I'm sure it's great. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the time machines. I'm just going to go through them one by one, not necessarily in a correct order or anything like that. I don't even know if there is a correct order. I've tried to sort of put it in a way that's logical, I suppose, but it's not really the perfect way to do it, okay? Because I don't think there is a perfect way. Before we do that, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you haven't hit the bell notification, YouTube has been telling me statistics saying only this many people have got notifications from you. I thought you get a notification when I upload if you're just subscribed to me. But apparently you only truly get the notification 100% of the time if you hit the bell. I don't know why. Maybe it's because people are subscribed to so many people on YouTube. But if you could hit the bell, I'd really appreciate it. Just so you wouldn't want me to put up something that you'd be interested in. You don't have to watch what I put up, but just as long as you're getting notified of it, then that'll be good. Okay, so moving on. Let us have a look at the first time machine or time device that was invented in the show. Now, that's not it. The one that I've got sitting there. It's actually this. So obviously Origin Tannhaus's machine is the first one that was created in the show. I don't know if you would really call it a time machine. Maybe it was called a time machine in the show, but I don't know if I would call it a time machine. It's almost like a time reordering machine and it destroyed the world, created new worlds. It didn't really do as easy a job as I suspect Tannhaus wanted. It achieved what Tannhaus wanted in the end. Whether you think by luck or predeterminism, that's up to you. That's a debate we can have. But it definitely achieved what he wanted to happen in the end. But this is the first machine. Now, do I have much to say about this machine that I haven't said already? I'm sure you can point me into particular avenues of discussion in terms of this machine. I've talked at length about my ideas towards it reordering time in terms of predetermining the outcome of the show. And I've went into extensive theories in my Ultimate Theory video and also my Ultimate Theory Revisited video. And then I also went on it in my Matrix Parallels video as well a little bit. So I've talked extensively about this. I will mention, just for a sort of a little difference, the design of this machine I really enjoy. I really like the cables coming in and out. I like how it sort of looks like a dog toy. Do you know what I mean? So like those balls with all the little things coming off. I like the look of that. It obviously it alludes. It's in my mind. I without even knowing much about electromagnetism, I look at it and I'm thinking, right, obviously this is trying to develop some sort of field between these structures. So I think it's a really well designed time machine. I like the contrast of the orangey, fiery color in the middle with the blue on the outside. I think that works really, really well. Yeah, I think that this show is really good at designing time machines that look really cool, for one. In my mind, the first thing it has to look cool. The second thing, it has to look like something that is believably a time travel device. Now, obviously, in real life, we don't really know what that would look like. For example, I don't think I like Back to the Future as much as I love it. I don't think if there was a time machine created, it wouldn't be a car that has to go up to 88 miles per hour. That wouldn't be the way that the real life scientists would do it. So that shows a little bit more, sort of just a little bit more comical in their design. Dark has definitely gone for more realistic designs, and there's also a pattern to how they're sort of going to the next machine throughout the show. And that's where I wanted to get into next, is leaving this machine. Now, if I've left... Oh, I actually will just mention one thing. I've mentioned it before on Dark Discussions, but I don't want to leave it here without saying it. There is actually footage in the show of Tannhaus entering in commands to a computer that's linked up to this machine. Because I remember one of the big complaints about my Ultimate Theory, when I said that I think that this machine contributed to the predetermined nature of the rest of the show. It sort of aligned the worlds in a particular way. Not that the machine maybe did that, but when it knocked time out of whack, time did that. A lot of people took sort of umbrage with that, because they said that there's no way, because it looks like a chemical machine. It's a Now, I try not to get annoyed when I read things like that, but at the same time, there's no way we can look at that and 100% say if it's chemical, if it's electrical. Even at that, there's going to be mixture. It's not a black and white thing. It's going to be a mixture. Like, there's definitely some electronics going on there. My head goes to electromagnetism. You know, I know it's powered by cesium in the other world. But this one definitely looks like electromagnetism to me. But anyway, we don't want to get delved into what type of science it is. Because the minute you start arguing and saying, oh, it's got to be chemical, so therefore you can't enter in the program, that's difficult road to go down, because there's no way you can state explicitly what it is. And even if it is, why can't you enter in a program saying, I want this to happen, and then the machine decides how much of each chemical or what temperature or what... So there's definitely ways to do that. It's just, I find it interesting, some people's little sort of things they have in the back of the head, which is sort of their straw, or no, what is it, their hill to die on, you know? So that's the saying, if you have a small hill to die on, or your hill to die on is the thing that is you can't get past. So some people couldn't get past the idea that they thought this was a chemical machine, as if that made any difference to my theory whatsoever. Anyway, I thought I'd just mention that. Okay, so obviously if you're thinking about the development of a time machine, because I definitely think there is obviously an argument that everything is just in a big loop, paradoxes, which is that is true. But the fact of the matter is, the world has been created. These two worlds have been created with these time machines already existing in paradoxes. However, Adam does show us the wall in his lair, showing the different designs of all the time machines in order. So I think the world was created with all these paradoxes in place where the machines already existed and they're being created again. However, I do think that there is a logical sort of movement of one to the next, to the next, to the next, in terms of getting more complicated, in terms of getting more powerful, I suppose, because they start off when they've been able to go through 33 years, and eventually they can go through any time they want, then they can go to any world they want. So there is definitely a step-by-step process to improving these machines. Now, obviously, the Atom's black matter, the black cesium ball, I don't know what to call it, God particle, we'll call it that, God particle machine. That machine takes place in chronologically before this one. But the idea would be that all the steps had to be in place in time, in some respect, for this to happen. Now, do I think that they actually, like when Noah was making this machine, he was doing it like blindly? No, I don't actually think that. I think that he had the plans for this, and I think he knew, I have to make this machine to kill Eric, and I have to make this machine to kill Yasin. And then when I do it on Helga, I'll move on to the next design, because I think all the designs already exist in my mind. Because we know that the design for the cogs and the clockwork, the Tannhaus machine in the Origin world, not in the Origin world, in the Prime world, what we call the Prime world, Atom's world, that machine has to come after this because of that, and there is blueprints to that. So I'd imagine there's blueprints to this too. In fact, Adam had them on his wall. So also, I just will say, there is a huge proviso to all of this discussion, and some people just don't like this as an explanation. But unfortunately, the way the show has been created is that they can always fall back on that book that Noah had tells him what to do. And we're going to touch upon this later on as well when we talk about something about the time machines. But the book that Noah has, the Triquetra book, tells him what to do at each step. Okay? So that there's no arguing that. That book exists. So we'll get into more of that in a minute when we get through the time machines, but that's worth remembering. Okay? So everything that's happening in terms of the loops and the paradoxes of these time machines, it's all probably in that book. And that book was written by the Unknown, who is Eva's son, and Eva wants everything to continue as it always has. So, makes sense to me. All right, so the next step, obviously, is going to be this one. And he makes this to send Helga back. Now, we found out, interestingly, now, my explanation as to why he needed to make this machine, apart from, obviously, the fact that it said in the book to do so, I always thought, well, they had to make this machine because Helga had to get back, and the tunnel was closed. But that doesn't really make much sense, though, because we know that Noah has a Tannhaus machine. He has that steampunky Tannhaus machine because he gives it to Bartos, and then eventually the Stranger uses it. So I don't really, to be honest with you, know that there's any other explanation for why he has to send Helga back this way, other than it tells him to do so in the book. And that might seem unsatisfying, but that's the way the show's been set up. It's been set up like to be this way. That everything has been told, and you have to do it again the same way. Everything has to be done the same way as it always has. The worlds have been created with these paradoxes, and that's the world we live in. You know, not every one of the paradoxes is going to have an explanation. Okay. Next up, we have this machine, which, in my opinion, looks really cool. But it obviously wasn't the design they went for the final machine. This, to me, really feels like the props department made this one as well, and they chose the other one, but they can still include it in the show. And it works as well, because it does look like a transition towards the Tannhaus machine. And again, this probably just exists. Or, to be honest with you, this might actually be a machine. Now, this is off the top of my head right as I speak now, but it makes a little bit of sense to me. The fact that there are echoes from Origin HG Tannhaus's life and family in the other two worlds. For example, the Charlotte watch. For example, can I think of anything else on top of my head? Probably not. There are other things though as well, like the necklace Benny is wearing in the final scene of season 3. Is the necklace that Francisca has as well. So there are a lot of things echoed from the Origin world. Maybe this machine was actually created by Sickmundus in the Origin world. Because we know that, I'm pretty sure that Sickmundus or some sort of society existed in the Origin world that thought they could travel back in time, and they thought they could invent time travel. I'm pretty sure that did exist in the Origin world. Now, did they ever accomplish it? No, not until Tannhaus eventually created his machine. But I think it would be interesting. It's an interesting idea that this machine might actually be their best attempt to try and do something like that in the Origin world, and that's why it sort of exists here. Other than that, the only other explanation is that it is in this continual line of machines. Okay, obviously, next we have the 33-year machine that Stranger uses a lot. We have Bartos using it. Like nearly all characters who time travel go use this at some point. This is the Adam's World's Golden Ball equivalent. This is the one but they can only travel 33 years, where the Golden Ball can go everywhere. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when I get there. So this machine was created by Tannhaus, but the plans already existed. So this machine is a true paradox. This machine is a paradox that we have proof of the paradox. Okay, so this is not like the Noah building the case around Helga, that we can assume it's just because he said it, he saw it in the book and he had the plans. That's an assumption of a paradox. This one is a proof of a paradox. There's also a great video online of someone who's tracked the whole way through the show, the timeline of this machine. So that's worth checking out. I don't know it off the top of my head. I'll try and put it in the description if I remember. But there's no one narrating it or anything like that. I think it's actually a channel. I think it's a channel called Dark. Someone's made a channel called Just Dark. And there's a great video. It's about 20 minutes long. And they go through, just with text on the screen, where this machine goes the whole way through the storyline. And it's a really interesting watch. So check that out. Any questions about that machine, let me know. That's obviously the one we know. We all know the most about that one. It's been in the show for the longest. It's a genuine paradox. I love the design of it. I've mentioned it so much times. The intricate cog work, the even like when the CG things stuff happen, like it lifts up the middle of it, it looks amazing. I love that there's a couple of little dials there to show that there's some measurements going on. I love the design of the cesium-137 canister. Just the prop department. They've done a fantastic job, and I hope the same people who work in the prop department are going to be on 1899, because I'm really interested to see. Obviously, that whole show is going to take place in the past. Well, we think it is. So there's going to be a lot more props needing to be made to look sort of ancient in a way. So I'm really looking forward to the design of that show too. So hopefully they keep the same prop makers on, because they've done a fantastic job. I think we can all agree. Okay, so the next one I've got is the tunnel. Now, obviously, the tunnel is the first one we came across in the show. Having said that, the tunnel was definitely influenced by the 33-year machine existing. So I included it here because, and this is a point for debate that people can get into in the comments. I still am of the belief, I don't know. I take it that Jonas, the stranger, created the tunnel connection, because he did it in 2019, which linked then to 2052. No, sorry, linked to that doesn't make any sense actually. It should be an 86 to link it back 33 and forward 33. So maybe it actually was just yeah, that's a question I want to ask you, because in the show, when I watched the show, I always took from it that when the stranger accidentally closed the tunnels, he was actually creating it. And I know some people have actually said in the comments before that when Adam said that, he was just alluding to the idea that when Noah said that at the end of season 1, sorry, jeez, I'm all over the place. When Adam said that at the end, Noah said that at the end of season 1, he was actually just alluding to that Adam or Stranger or someone will eventually cause this to open. If that's the case, I don't remember being shown when it was opened apart from that time. So let me know, when was the link between the caves opened? Okay? And how was it opened? I would love to know that. I might just be being stupid and I don't remember. Maybe it had something to do with... Maybe it just had something to do with the actual Origin HD Tannhaus' machine, but I can't remember the exact date of that off the top of my head right now, because that was in 86, I know that. So maybe that was the link that opened it, and then the Stranger closed it, but that wouldn't really constitute... Maybe Jonas and Marta going into the Origin world is what opened the triple between 53, 86, and 2019. Let me know in the comments. I'm not 100% sure, but let me know. Next, obviously, we have the God Particle Balls. I'm not going to be putting putting all three of them in, because obviously we've got the evil one, we've got the future one, and we've got this one. So they all work very similarly. I love the design. It's like a Tesla. If you've seen the film The Prestige, it's like the Tesla electromagnet sort of sparking. Obviously, they're actually sparking into a ball of God particle here, but it's still a similar idea. I don't understand why any character would ever walk into this. It's one of the most terrifying things I can imagine. I think I probably would use the 33-year machine. That seems like, even though it's the same thing technically, it seems like safer, I suppose. You just walk. I don't know, like the idea of walking into this huge ball. Oh yeah, I will mention here the idea that. So the question, I've had a question before in the comments. Why doesn't this machine with the ball here exist in 2019 and 2080 and 1980 and stuff like that? Like, why does it disappear and then another one gets created in the future? Well, the reason why this disappears is because when Adam tries to kill the Origin, when Adam tries to kill the Origin, i.e. the unknown inside Marta's womb, he channels the energy from this one through time and uses the energy of the future one at the same time. So that's when it goes away. So I think he actually chose a particular time to channel the energy from that time in the past, like in the 40s or in the 30s or whenever it would be, even in the 20s. And he channeled the energy from it, and then he channeled the energy, and obviously from the one in the power plant already, and then they are what destroyed her. So that's the explanation as to why this one doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so then the next one is this. Now, this isn't the next one, actually. I wanted to just point this out. This is really cool. Through my research for this video, I found Johann Helfrich von Müller. And this is actually an adding machine. It's like a really early calculator. And I think it's from the 1700s. But doesn't this look really similar to the design for Adam's little board that he's like twisting the knobs on? So I just thought this was really cool. Really cool note, little nod to that machine. This is actually a calculator, so this isn't even Adam's machine. It looks almost exactly like it. I think Adam's machine, instead of having just the numbers, it has little clocks on it and dates and things. But it's very, very similar, and I just really enjoyed that parallel to the design. Okay, next one. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this. I like the idea that they didn't really show us much about this, because it means we can fill in ideas ourselves. Obviously, in my mind, I think to myself, was this created by Tannhaus in the alt world? When I keep thinking about that, I'm not sure about that, because it 100% definitely could be, and it probably is. That's probably what we're meant to assume. But the idea that the tunnels in the alt world are all shifted by 33 years. The tunnels go from 2019 to 2052 and then back to 86, but they don't go to the 50s. So the fact that the tunnels are all shifted like that makes me think that all the discoveries and all of the inventions happened later. But that means Tannhaus would be older. And I don't know if he would have had enough time to create this like he did in Adam's world. So I'm not quite sure. I assume that he did, but it doesn't really give us... Or maybe this machine is literally a paradox. It's not a paradox in how it was created. It just has always existed. That might be another thing. It's always existed. But yeah, it can travel through different dimensions. It can travel to any time you want. Adam must have had one at the end of Season 2. He must have. How did he escape the apocalypse otherwise? So all good stuff. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. Unless he ran to underground somewhere, because obviously that Adam would have known. Like Adam would have known that he survived the first time by doing that. So maybe he went into the basement first and hid in a cupboard until the Jonas went away. Who knows? But right. And the last one. Oh, actually, it's not the last one. I keep saying the last one. It's not the last one. This is the portals. Again, I'm not going to say too much about this. This is just I just wanted to note this is another time travel thing. How people travel through time. I think it's interesting, and I don't know if there's any meaning to the different ways that the people travel through. So I know that when Jonas and Helga touched fingers in the first season, Jonas was sent to the future, but Helga was sent to the 80s, where Jonas was. So in this one, Elizabeth stayed in the same place, and Charlotte went to her. So maybe it's just random. Maybe it doesn't have a predetermined, you go here, you go there. Maybe it's just random each time. But that was something that always sort of stuck in my mind in terms of why that is. But yeah, worth a chat. Okay, then we have this time travel tunnel. Not going to say anything about that, but that exists. And then, okay, so now we're going to get into the actual thing that Adam wanted me to talk about. So very quickly, I see I'm already at 25 minutes. This episode's going to be quite long, and I apologize for that, but that's just the way it's going to be. So this episode, obviously, I'm talking about the time machine. So Adam wanted me to cover, why did Noah take the three boys, i.e. Mads, Yasin, and Eric? What was the point of them dying? Now, Adam does say that he recognizes himself that the reason for Mads being taken is probably because Ulrich needed to be sent on the path to become a police officer and then eventually be sent back in time to kill Mads. To attempt to kill Helga. So that path needed to be set. And I think Mads being taken was a big part of that. Egon failing in their eyes, Ulrich taking on a police thing saying, I will never do that. I never do that. I'll be better than that. So definitely that is the reason for, I'm pretty sure that's the reason for Mads. Now I will mention that this can definitely be in that little book that Noah has. It's all in there. So there doesn't need to be reasons why these boys are taken. There doesn't need to be. But we'll say that there is, okay? So Eric, what's the reason for Eric being taken if there was one? Well, if Eric wasn't taken, then the group of friends from 2019 wouldn't have went to the caves. And when they went to the caves, Mikkel was taken. Okay, you see where I'm going here? So it sort of had to happen. So that's my reason for that. So that sort of set that all in motion. Now Yasin is the funny one. Now Yasin, I don't really know. If you were going to go with my friend Konrad from the After Dark podcast theory, it's that Yasin turns into Alexander. So I don't know what the symbolism of him being taken there is. But anyway, if Yasin is Alexander, then anyway, I'm going to go with he's not Alexander for this. But basically, some people have said in the comments before that they think maybe because Noah's jealous of Yasin, because obviously Yasin and Elizabeth were boyfriend and girlfriend, so Noah got rid of him. I love that idea. Also, maybe just that they needed to have Yasin out of the picture to get to leave the space open for Noah. I think both of those, although funny and also coincidences, I don't know about that. I do not know about that. I mean, I want to believe truly that Noah, as like a 50-year-old man, was just killing Yasin because he was talking to his future wife or future partner. I want to believe that, but I don't know. I don't know if Noah would do that. The character that we've come to know. More than likely, it just says it in the book for that one. But there's an explanation there if you want it. Okay. So also it's interesting that the two, Eric and Yasin, were both found in in 53. So maybe if Yasin was found in a different time, that would be a reason for him being taken. But because he was found with Eric, I don't really see the difference between just it being one boy found or two boys found. So even when he turned up and when he was found, I can't really get any meaning from that, to be honest with you. So there's my answer. It's all in the book. Plus, there are reasons there if you want them. Okay? Hey you. Yeah, you. Why don't you make a comment and join the conversation? Okay, every week I answer some of your questions or even just talk about some of the comments that were put in the comment section on YouTube. If you want to join the discussion, join the conversation, comment down below. I might, if you say something that really hits with me and I want to explain or go into more detail with, then I'll include it. Or sometimes I could even just have a chat with you in the comment section themselves, because I just love talking about Dark, don't you? All right, first one comes from Frackin' Toaster Lover. The reason people think Burnt was a perv wasn't just because he's much older than her. It's mainly because he knew her as a little girl when he was a grown adult and already showed an interest in her that's at very least ambiguous. The scene in season 3, episode 4, where he gives her money, told her she was pretty and looked older than she was, and gave her that advice about going for what she wants, comes off as quite creepy and makes it look like grooming. You know what, frackin' toaster lover? I think I would 100% agree with you. Am I going to... It is definitely creepy, yeah. You're right. And I overlooked that when I was talking about Burnt last week. Definitely creepy, that behavior. Is it enough for me to label their relationship later as inauthentic? I don't think so. I think the fact that we were shown them in the origin world as a loving family in the photograph shows us that actually there is a lot of love there. Whether that I don't think that exists in the alt world and the prime world. I don't think that exists there. So maybe maybe the time in those two worlds has corrupted that relationship, and maybe that grooming and things exists in this world. Yeah, really interesting. I'm not sure the slant that takes on the whole idea that she became the next power plant leader. That actually might even make that a bit more suspect as well. But yeah, definitely, I can understand why you view Burnt as a perv from that scene. Definitely, definitely. Okay, so next, from V Wongable. I think I'm not even going to try and pronounce that as one word. Brilliant. Love all your videos and theories. Thank you. Please shed a light on why Elizabeth Doppler also has heterochromia eyes. I only know she is weirdly related to Claudia, so she got some genetically maybe. Any deep theory? Well, the adult, as far as I'm aware, the child version of Elizabeth doesn't have heterochromia. It's just when she's an adult in the future and one of her eyes is cloudy. My mind just tells me that's something to do with the nuclear fallout. Or maybe she was, she got it in a being roughed up in the future. I'm not sure. Does that count as heterochromia? Because that's her whole pupil and everything was foggy. I think that's a different. What's the word? Thing. Different thing. I don't think that's heterochromia. Unless you're talking about the child's eyes, in which I didn't notice. I didn't notice her eyes being different colors. If it's her eyes in the future, then that's just the nuclear fallout, in my opinion. There's something going on there with the state in which they're living in the future, and that it eventually goes that way. So, yeah. Last one. Ted R. Nelson. Helga is Burnt's grandson. I don't think he ever believed Helga was his son. So, Ted here has made a mistake, now, with all due respect, in the way that a lot of people do. And it has to do with the way... Now, let me see if I can get this here. That this... turn that down. Lovely music, turn that down. It has to do with the way that this family tree is set up on the website. So if we go over here to... do you want a bit of that music? Yeah, let's bring a bit of it in. I mean, it is lovely after all. So it has to do with the way it's set up here. So look, Burnt. He is above Greta. And that makes some people think that Burnt is actually her father. That is not true. Okay? First of all, to show you why it's not true, Egon and Hannah, look, connected. They have cilia. I don't think anyone's going to... I don't think anyone's going to argue with me that Hannah is not Egon's daughter. So there's that. Another thing is, if I go in here and click on Burnt, and I go down, it says here, Burnt lives with his wife Greta. Don't think I need to say any more. So, Ted, I understand why you thought that because of the way it looks, but I don't really... Now, this not only Ted, there's been a lot of people who've come. This is why I've included it in the video. There's a lot of people who've come to me with the same assumption based on that, based on that family tree. What, like, I don't understand coming to that conclusion, even because it shows that the family tree, because everything we've seen in the show is alluding to the idea that they're married. Like, Greta is talking about, that Helga isn't Burnt's. When she's talking to Noah in season 1. So I don't really understand why Greta would say that if Burnt was her father, because that would be creepy. talk about Burnt being a perv. Geez, that would make him a perv, wouldn't it? But anyway, Ted, I think hopefully that's cleared it up for you. I couldn't really convey that properly in a text conversation, so I wanted to include it here for Ted and for anyone else as well who's looked at that family tree and been confused in the same way. Because let's be honest, it's such a mad family tree. There's no way to properly get everything in there the way it should be. Okay, so into the last section now. So it all started on the dark subreddit. So I was right. Oh no, I was almost right. Christo MF is the name of the Redditor, and I was bringing up the idea. Christo MF said we have to just accept that Claudia's abductive reasoning, that not even Holmes would be capable of, makes sense to him. That's the idea of why Adam believed Claudia, and that's fair enough. Her abductive reasoning is a little hard to grasp. I understand that. I said then, Claudia's reasoning isn't too hard to grasp in my opinion. It all starts with the question, what did the world look like before the first time machine was invented? So I'm making the point there, like, how did Claudia start on this journey to discovering that the origin world exists and H.G. Tannhaus destroyed the world, that journey. So that journey can be described, for me, it can be described as starting at the point where she thought to herself, what did the world look like before time travel? Okay, so that's the starting entry point to this journey for her. So when she just asked herself that, she realized, well, everyone who's connected in this big loop on Eva's map on the floor won't exist anymore. So everyone who's a product of this time travel incest won't exist anymore. So then that led her on the path, okay? So Christo says, Christo sort of doesn't think, this is to sum it down into its bare bones, what I thought was so interesting that I want to put to you guys, is Christo isn't sure that there's any explainable way for Claudia to then, having asked herself that question, to go on and actually figure out that there's an origin world. So Christo is of the belief that there is no explainable way. It doesn't exist, and it's almost, and in my own words, it would be lazy writing, because it's just like, oh, let's just have this surprise at the end, with no explanation of how that could happen and no feasible way for it to happen. Now, I gave an idea of how it could happen. Now, this is just one idea, but I thought it was interesting to have this thought experiment of, like, think to yourself, how could Claudia figure it out? And now this is completely wrong. I know it is. And look, there's no wrong answer, but there's also no right answer. But this is my off the top of my head idea of how it would go. And I said, Claudia found out about the 86 incident, which occurs at the same time as the Tannhaus origin machine. She happened to be in the tunnel at the exact same time, or she wanted to see what was going on in the tunnel during this time, like as an experiment of sorts, for example. So maybe Claudia was in the tunnel and the white light started coming down. Now, Christo straight away, very cleverly said, well, hang on, wouldn't he see Jonas and Marta in there? The answer to that is yes, unless Claudia was in the tunnel in the alternate world at the same time. Okay, so maybe she was there and then went into it. Siri wants to talk to me here, guys. Sorry. I'll throw over there. Right, okay. So went into it and went into the origin world. So maybe Claudia actually traveled into the origin world. But she realized, I exist in this world. I can't change anything. Otherwise, I might be messing things up. So what she did was she sort of learnt everything that was going on in the origin world and then went back. Again, this is one of the biggest problems. How would she get back? Would she have to go underneath the tunnel again in 86 when Tannhaus was creating that? Probably that's how she would do it. And so but the tunnel did the tunnel exist? That's interesting. There's a plot in my own little theory here. Anyway, she goes back to the main world and then she goes and tells Adam. So my idea would be maybe she went to the origin world and she figured it out. That's just one idea off the top of my head. So what I want to put to you guys is, can we prove Christo wrong? Can we come up with a way that makes logical sense how Claudia figured out about the origin world and found out and all that and how she reasoned that? That's what I want to know. I want to know if there is a way, okay? That's what I want to know. Okay, so last thing I want to show you is Christo's podcast. So I'll put a link in the description. It's called, now I'm going to give it a go, Christo. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher it here. Guiados por Ariadna, okay? And it means guided by Ariadne. And that's a podcast all about Dark in Spanish. So make sure, if you're a Spanish speaker, check that out. Because just even based on my chat with him here on Reddit, he seems like a great sort of deductionist, I would say. He demands a lot from Dark, as I do as well, which, there's nothing wrong with that. And Dark isn't a perfect show, and it might be that there is no answer to this question, but I want to know your answer. I want to know, is there an answer to this question? All right, guys, that is it for the Time Machines discussion this week. Can you please head over onto my Twitter, @HeyAnthonyJames? I've got new topics up for choice for next week. The first one is Parallels to Lost, which is Donnie Starts. It's still hanging in there. It's there, okay? So Parallels to Lost. I don't know if it'll be a similar parallel in The Matrix. It might just be things that are similar that I notice. It won't be a full-on thematic parallel. It might be. I haven't started doing the research for that one yet because it hasn't been chosen yet. Parallels to Westworld. I see a lot of parallels to Westworld. That was put forward by Vic Disco. So I want to see, if we do that one, there are a lot of parallels to Westworld, especially Westworld Season 1. I'm not going to get into what they are, but I'm sure some of you realize what they are already. Okay, then there was the chat with my mum. As I'll just remind you again, my mum has seen all 3 seasons of Dark. In fact, she watched the first season of Dark twice because she couldn't remember what happened in it between the seasons. And then so my mum can't remember anything from the show, not really. I ask her questions about it and she has no clue. It's really good fun. It's like whenever Game of Thrones came out and people were asking their parents, like, who's this character? And people were saying, I call that Dragon Lady. It's kind of like that. Like, my mum doesn't really know what's going on, but she kind of does. So I think it'll be fun to have a chat with her. And also, costume chat with my wife. My wife is a costume worker, and she works on various TV shows and films here in Belfast, in Northern Ireland. And she's worked on Game of Thrones before. And I'd like to have her analyze the costumes in Dark and have a chat about that. All right? Apart from that, that's this week's episode. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell, remember. That'll mean a lot to me. Apart from that, I'll see you next week. See you in the next cycle.